Florida is #1, and working together, we will ensure that Florida remains the #1 state in these United States.
Tonight at 6, Governor Ron DeSantis boasting the Sunshine State while delivering his State of the State address. During the address, the governor laid out his top priorities for a second term. Good evening, I'm Elliot Rodriguez.
And I'm Lauren Pastrana. But it's what happened moments before the address that sparked controversy across the state. A 6-week abortion ban was introduced by lawmakers. Jim DeFede is standing by with analysis on today's events in Tallahassee.
But first, let's head over in the studio to CBS 4's Joe Gorcho, who is monitoring the breaking news out of Tallahassee. And this is a bombshell bill, Joe.
Absolutely, Elliot. Minutes before Governor Ron DeSantis entered the chamber to deliver his State of the State address, a new abortion bill dropped. The proposed legislation would ban abortions after 6 weeks of pregnancy. It does allow for exemptions for rape and incest, provided they have official proof of the crime. DeSantis says he would sign the new bill into law. The bill bans medicines from inducing an abortion to be delivered by the U.S. Postal Service or any other shipping service. Only physicians can give it in person. The measure also looks to stop government entities and educational institutions from using public money to assist people traveling outside the state for an abortion.
That exemption is nothing more than a thinly veiled attempt at Republicans to feel better about themselves at night. Let me be clear, as a survivor of sexual assault, what that exemption really is. Crap. Do you go to the police every time you're sexually assaulted? No. You'd be forced to go report that, to take care of a problem after that assault? No. We should not be forcing or asking people to disclose things that they're not ready to do.
I think the issue is less the week than the fact that there's a detectable heartbeat, but there is the 15-week that's being challenged.
Now, a White House spokesperson did respond to the proposed measure by saying, quote, "We know that these bans are already having a devastating impact on women's health. Politicians like Governor DeSantis espouse, quote, freedom for all, unquote, while directly attacking the freedom to make one's own health care decisions." The proposed bill tightens a 15-week abortion ban that's already on the books that was approved last year. That law is currently being challenged in the Florida Supreme Court. In the studio, Joe Gorcho, CBS 4 News.
All right, Joe, thank you. And our team coverage continues tonight with CBS 4's Jim DeFede.
Jim, is there anything that can get in the way of this 6-week abortion ban or other high-profile bills from passing?
No. No. There really is nothing. Florida Republicans have supermajorities in both the House and the Senate. And let's be clear, in case you didn't quite understand what was just what Joe and some of those others just sort of spoke about. We talk about this as being a 6-week abortion ban. Let's be perfectly clear. It's really 2 weeks. Because a woman might not realize that she's missed her menstrual cycle or that it's off until week 4 of the 6 weeks. So then she's got to make a decision. Am I just late, or do I have to make a life-altering decision in the next 10 days, 12 days, 13 days? And what if a doctor decides, well, I'm not sure exactly the date that you conceive, so therefore we can start maybe taking a few more days off. This is, in essence, a outright ban on abortion in the state of Florida. The exceptions, which are being talked about, is that they are now granting exceptions in the cases of rape and incest. But what you heard Lauren Book, I believe it was Lauren Book who was speaking a second ago, explain is that the law makes clear that before you can even go to a doctor to seek an abortion after being raped, you must provide court records, a restraining order, or some sort of police report to document what you've done. And as Lauren Book said, you know, a lot of women don't want to have to deal with the police, don't want to have to report that they've been abused, perhaps by a family member or by a stranger. They just want to move on with their life. And if a pregnancy occurs, they want to be able to deal with it. They don't want a lot of the rest that's coming with this bill. The state of Florida is going to, in this bill, get deeper and deeper into a woman's life and tell them what they can and cannot do. It's complete control in that regard. And the parts about the bill that go to being able to get, for instance, the RU-486 bill or pill, the abortion pill or other means to be able to do what you currently can get through telehealth or some other matter, they now want to make it so difficult, more expensive even as well, by requiring a woman to go visit a doctor for them to write a prescription. Right now, we're moving to telehealth on more and more things. When I have COVID, I go to my doctor on telehealth. She prescribes me medication. Not for this type of thing, though. So that's where we're at. So that's a long way of saying to your question, no, nothing is going to stop this.
No, that's because you said it right. They don't have a majority in Tallahassee. The Republican Party has a super majority. So what Ron DeSantis wants, Ron DeSantis gets. Jim, thank you very much.